Alright, we're about to start the stream. Let me just make sure I've got the link out to everyone. Here's that link. Alright, we're about to start the stream. Let me just make So before we get started, make sure you load up this link that I have displayed on the screen here. That'll open up the game that we're going to be using today. Just make sure everyone's good to go, then we will get started. So that is the template game we'll be using, make.gamefruit.com/games/remix/224289. Alright, so what are we going to be covering in this set of tutorials? We're going to be doing a tutorial here called Vlambeer, the art of the Screenshake. And in this tutorial we're going to show you how to make a great looking game that'll turn your players into fans. We've taken apart a presentation from JW, who's one half of the award-winning game studio Vlambeer, and we've made each step of his tutorial into something you can recreate in GameFruit. And all credit goes to JW from Vlambeer for making this demonstration game. Now, let's have a look at that game. Here's the link to that game, and it'll open up a little template game here that looks like this. Let's click play to see what the game looks like, and then I'll show you a comparison to how we want to improve it. So you can run around with the WASD or arrow keys, and you can hit spacebar to shoot. And we've got a little platformer action shooter game here, and it's kind of cool, but it's lacking a lot of interesting features, something that we would call game feel. So over the next 8 steps we're going to show you how to juice up game feel, and here in my other tab, a little example game of how we can make things nicer. So you can see there are a bunch of interesting mechanics that are added there to make that game feel a lot nicer. So that's game feel and what we're going to be adding in. Alright, let's start with our first step, animation and sounds. So what do we need to do for that? Well, let's start with our player character. So we'll right click on our player here and we'll edit their script. And we want to add to this existing code, and there is a bunch of pre-existing code in here. We want to go find this block here constantly. That's where we're going to set up our new animation. So let's go to functions and drag out to do something. And a function is like a little chunk of reusable code. To do something. Let's name this play correct animations. Play correct animations. And we want that happening in here inside this constantly block in this if block. So we'll go to functions and we'll grab play correct animations that we just made there, drag it above jump when jump key pressed. I'm just going to drag some of these other blocks down here down a little to make some space. Okay, play correct animations. So you would have noticed our player character just, it's pretty stiff and rigid. There are no animations on him yet. What we can do is detect how the player is moving and then play the correct animations on them. So we've got a walking animation, we've got an idle animation, we've got jump up, jump down, and jump mid. So we've got 5 different animations for when our character is moving around. And we want to detect how they're moving. So if our character is in the air, they're going to play their jumping animations. But if they're on the ground, they're going to play their walking or idle animation. And the way that we can detect if we're on the ground is we can ask if I'm touching on my bottom side, so if my feet are touching the ground. To do that, we want an if block from control flow. So we'll grab this if do block, drag it out, and we want to ask if touching on bottom side. So we'll go to physics, and under collisions we want touching on any side, drag that out, and change this any to bottom. If touching on bottom side. And if I am touching on the bottom side, I now have two animations that I could be playing, walk or idle. So I want to figure out, should I be walking or should I be idling? What's the difference between walking and idling? Well, if I'm walking, I should be moving left and right, but if I'm idling, I'll be still. So we can check if I should be idling by checking if my x velocity is 0. So we'll go to control flow and grab another if do block. Pop it inside there. So if I'm touching on the bottom side and if my x velocity equals 0, so we need an equals block from operators. Drag that out. And in the left, we want x velocity, which is from physics. Velocity x. And then in the right, we want 0 from operators. That number 0. Velocity x of 0 is I'm not moving left or right. Okay, now we want to play our animation in here. So we'll go to animation and grab play animation idle. Perfect. If I am still, I'll play my idle animation. Now, what about if I'm walking? How are we going to modify this? Well, we can change this if to an if else by clicking on that little cog icon there. We can drag else out into here, and then we can click that icon again to close this. So if this is not true, if x velocity isn't 0, we can get it to play the walk animation. So I can right click on play animation and change the name to walk. Okay, good. Let's play this to test it out. Okay. And we can see as I go left and right, that animates, and when I'm standing still, I'm standing still. Now, what about the jumping? We don't want to be walking in the middle of the air, do we? So let's go sort that out. Okay, back down to our play correct animations function here. Let's go and tweak this if block here. So if I'm not touching anything on my bottom side, I must be in the air, right? If I'm not standing on the ground, I must be in the air. So we'll click on this little cog there and drag an else out into that if. And the cool thing about these if-else blocks is we can check for a bunch of different conditions and have a big tree of different decisions being made. So we can have a lot of alternatives to just one state. Now in here we want to check, am I jumping up, am I hovering in the middle of the air, or am I falling down? Because we've got 3 different jumping animations. And I'll actually show you those real quick. If we close out of our script here and save it, we can see the animations on any object by right clicking on it and then clicking view animation or edit animation. That'll open up our animation editor, and in here we can see these are our different animations. We've got jump up, looks like this, jump mid like that, and jump down like that, and the spelling there is very important. So jump up, jump mid, jump down. We are going to go back to our player script. With those animations in mind, we are going to figure out when should I be jumping up, when should I be jumping down, and when should I be jumping mid. Well, if I'm on the way up, I should play jump up, and if I'm on the way up, my y velocity, my vertical velocity, would be a negative number. So if I'm hanging in the middle of the air, we could just say if y velocity equals 0, but if you think about how a jump works, y velocity 0 is going to be for like a split second, and then I'll start falling back down again. start arcing back down. So we want to have a nice kind of a good range to play that hanging in the middle of the air animation, jump mid. So we'll break it into between negative 200 all the way through to 0 and then positive 200. That'll be jump mid. And then anything more negative than 200 will be up, and anything more positive than 200 will be down. So let's go to control flow and set up another if do block in here with those 3 different states in mind. So we're going to have if, else if, else. If, else if, else. 3 different states. And I can right click to clean up blocks to make all my blocks arrange themselves nicely. Okay, so we wanted to jump up. Let's check that condition first. If I should be jumping up, I'm going to have my y velocity stronger than negative 200. So I want to check if it's less than. So if I go to operators, grab an equals, change that to a less than, and then in the left I want that to be velocity y, so that's from physics. Velocity y starts out as velocity x, and then we want a number in there. I've got a 0 here that I could just duplicate, and if I was going really fast upwards, it would be something like negative 1,000 or negative 5,000, but my jump is not that strong, so I'll say if it's less than negative 200, then I will play my jump up animation. So I'll duplicate my play animation block. I'll make that say jump up. Okay, now what about falling down? Well, that one's called jump down, so I'll duplicate that again. This else if will be for jump down. Make sure it's spelled correctly. And if I'm falling or jumping down, that's where my velocity y will have, instead of going up, it's coming back down, and it's coming back down fairly strongly. So let's duplicate that less than block. If velocity y is greater than 200, and the faster down you're going, the bigger this number gets, and it'll be a positive number. But if my y velocity is between negative 200 and 200, so it could be 100, it could be 0, it could be negative 50, anything in that range, we want to play our jump mid. So duplicate play animation and make that jump mid. Okay, and that is the gist of our animations. So let's test them out, see how our jumping looks now. Jumping, there we go. So we can see up, mid, down. Great. Okay, now these zombies, they're a bit stiff and lifeless compared to my player now, right? Well, luckily in GameFruit we can just copy paste our code and reuse that, and these zombies all have the same animations. So let's go and do that. In our player controls we have play correct animations function. I'm going to select this block, see it's highlighted yellow, Control C on my keyboard to copy it, and if I go Control V, it'll paste it in like that. Now in this script I don't want to copy, so I'll throw it away, but I know that it is copied. So Control C, then I can close this script and save it. And on my zombie, and my zombie is over here, I can edit the script on my zombie. I might scroll out a little bit here so I can see all the blocks. Control V, and we can see the blocks appeared there. So that's my play correct animations function. I'm going to clean up my blocks, see how it gets arranged nicely. Now this is a description of, this is a definition of the function. I want to run that function constantly, just like I was on the player script. So I'll go to functions and grab play correct animations and pop that into my, where's that going to go? That will go let's just put that in the constantly block for now. If we need to change how that works in future, we can. Okay, cool. Now if we play the game, we can see how our zombie animates. There we go. Zombie's got his little run. And you can see also when the zombie falls, plays its little falling animation as well. And I can shoot them, but they have a lot of health. We'll address that soon. And they don't do anything interesting when they die, they just disappear. So let's continue. Animations and sound. So we've got the zombie animating just like the player. So let's go and save what we've got so far. I'm going to save my game, file, save game. And let's call this game field template for stream. You can call your game whatever you want. Okay, next step, sounds. Sounds on the zombie. All right. Did we want to do the hurt? I think we'll go and do the hurt and dying animations on the zombie a little later. Okay, so now we want to get sound effects working. So the cool thing about that game that I showed you before was that it had music and sounds, and sounds are a whole important part of games, half of the audio-visual experience, really. So in our zombie script, let's go and find when the zombie gets hurt. So if we scroll down in here, we're looking for a function, a green block called get hurt, and here it is, get hurt. So whenever the zombie gets hurt, we want to play a sound effect. So let's go to sound over here, this blue one, and we want to use our play sound effect block, play sound effect. Drag that out, we'll put that in our get hurt, if health is greater than 0, play sound effect, sound. Now let's get rid of this green sound block, we don't need that. We want to go back to our sound category and grab this block, get sound with name, sound 1. Get sound with name, and the sound name is hurt. Make sure you type that in. Play sound hurt. Let's duplicate that play sound effect block, right click duplicate. We're also going to do that in our die function. When the zombie dies, we want it to play the sound called zombie death. Zombie death. And then one other sound effect we want our zombie to play is when the zombie spawns in, it's going to make a little sound cue so that we know that, uh-oh, there's another enemy in our level. So we'll duplicate that play sound effect block, and I think we want to go all the way up to the top, because we want to say when this zombie is created, play the zombie spawn sound. So right up the top here, when created, play sound effect, zombie spawn. Okay, good. Let's play this now and listen out for our zombie sounds. So that's pretty cool. What else? Our gun should really make a shooting sound, shouldn't it? Yes, it should. Let's get our gun to make a shooting sound. So we'll close our game, close that zombie script, and go and find our gun, which is over here with a bunch of other little effects and parts of the game. So we'll right click on the gun there and edit the gun script. And let's see what blocks we've got in here. We want to find the shoot function, which is right here, shoot. And that goes and shoots a bullet. Just before it shoots a bullet, let's get it to play the shoot sound. So we will go to sound and grab play sound effect. And we don't want it to play sound, so we'll throw that away. If we go to sound, we want get sound with name. And the name of the shoot sound effect is shoot. So we get the gun to play the shoot sound. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, there are a couple more sound effects that we should go and add in on the player. We want our player to do a little jump sound effect, like a classic game. So let's go and edit our player script now. When we jump, whereabouts is this? We want a function called jump. Here it is, jump when jump key pressed. So in here, inside if able to jump, that's when we will play our jump sound effect. So we'll go to sound and we'll grab play sound effect. Put that in there, and remember, we don't want sound, we want get sound with name. Get sound with name, and the name of the sound is jump. Cool. Couple other sounds. We have a player hurt sound effect. We have a die, a player death sound effect, and a player respawn sound effect. So we'll just go and duplicate our play sound effect block and put that down in the rest of our functions that we have. So when we get hurt in our get hurt function, we should play a sound effect hurt. Then we can duplicate that block and reuse it a little bit further down as well. When we die, we want to play player death. And finally, duplicate that one. Down the bottom here, we have a respawn function. So when the player respawns, we want to play the respawn sound. Oh, and there is one other bit of sound, pretty important actually, the music. For this, when do we want our music to start playing? Let's go all the way back. Did I? Yep, respawn. All the way back up to the top. When the level starts, that's when we want our game music to start playing. If we go back to sound and grab this block, play music sound. So grab that, play music. Do that when the level starts, and we can throw away sound, and then go back to sound and grab get sound with name. And the name of our sound for music is music. M-U-S-I-C, music. Now the difference between play music and play sound effect is that play music will loop, so the music will get to the end, it'll just keep playing itself. Okay, let's give this a test. We'll have sound effects, we'll have music, it'll be pretty awesome. And already that feels pretty cool. Alright. In our next step, we will talk about enemy HP, increasing our rate of fire, bigger bullets, that kind of thing.